You know, medical scans, CTs, PET scans, they're amazing, right? Total lifesavers. But there's a catch. They expose us to radiation. So the big question is, what if there was a way to kind of shield our healthy cells from that potential damage? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. The really cool science behind antioxidant radioprotection.
Okay, so to really get why this is a big deal, you gotta understand the scale of it. I mean, when you think radiation, you probably think of, I don't know, the sun or just background stuff, right? But check this out. Modern medical scans, they've become a huge source. We're talking about these procedures making up nearly half of the average American's total radiation exposure each year. That's a massive piece of the pie.
And it's not just a big number, it's a number that's been growing like crazy. Get this, from the early 80s to 2006, the amount of radiation each person got from medical stuff didn't just creep up, it shot up 7 times. 7. Mostly because things like CT scans got way more common. And that huge jump, that's exactly why scientists are on the hunt for simple ways to maybe, lessen the risk from these incredibly important tests.
All right, so here's what we've got on the agenda. First, we'll look at the risk from different kinds of scans. Then, we're going to shrink down and see what's happening on a cellular level, this whole battle between free radicals and antioxidants. After that, we'll check out the science for using vitamins as a sort of shield, and we'll wrap up with a game plan that you, and should, talk over with your doctor.
Okay, first things first, let's get a real handle on this exposure. Because here's the thing, not all scans are the same. Not even close. The difference in how much radiation you get can be, well, you're about to see. It's pretty wild.
All right, take a look at this. The range here is just wow. Down at the bottom, a simple chest x-ray gives you a teeny tiny dose, like 0.02 millisieverts, okay? Now look up at a pretty standard CT scan of your abdomen. That's 8.0. That is 400 times more radiation. And then you've got something like a nuclear heart scan. That's a massive 15.6. The point here isn't to scare you, not at all. It's just to understand that some of our best diagnostic tools also pack the biggest punch when it comes to radiation.
So the big question is, what's all this radiation doing once it's inside of us? Well, to figure that out, we have to zoom way, way in, down to the cellular level, because that's where this invisible battle is happening, kicked off by these little troublemakers called free radicals.
So imagine this. Radiation from a scan zips through your body. Most of your cells are made of water, right? Well, when the radiation hits that water, it creates these super unstable things called reactive oxygen species, or ROS for short. Just think of them as tiny little pinballs of chaos. The reason they're so chaotic is they're missing an electron, and that makes them desperate. They'll do anything to get one and feel stable again.
And that desperation is where the trouble starts. To get stable, these free radicals basically just mug the first healthy molecule they see, and they steal an electron. The problem is, the victims of this little mugging are often the most important parts of your cell. We're talking your DNA, your proteins, the very walls that hold the cell together. And that damage, that's what scientists call oxidative stress.
But wait, our bodies aren't just sitting there taking it. Nope, for every villain there's a hero, right? And in our cells, the heroes are called antioxidants. They're like our body's own personal security team, designed specifically to handle this kind of mess.
And their strategy is so simple but so brilliant. See, if a free radical is a thief looking to steal an electron, an antioxidant is basically a philanthropist with an extra one to give away. It just hands over its spare electron and poof. The free radical is happy, stable, and totally neutralized. The threat is gone. It just stops the chain reaction of damage right in its tracks. It's just a really elegant system.
And if you want to see what that damage actually looks like, here it is. This is called a comet assay, and you can see why. The bright round part, that's the head of the comet. That's the cell's nucleus, where all the DNA is supposed to be tucked in safe and sound. But that long, fuzzy tail, that is literally broken pieces of DNA damaged by free radicals spilling out. It's such a powerful way to see the exact kind of damage we're talking about.
Okay, so this brings up a pretty obvious question, right? If our bodies have these natural defenses, can we beef them up? Like, could taking certain vitamins before a scan give us an extra layer of protection? Let's see what the science has to say, and we'll start with probably the most famous antioxidant out there, vitamin C.
So the early research is pretty interesting, but we gotta be careful here. Back in '94, a small study found that people who took vitamin C had less DNA damage in their white blood cells after radiation. Fast forward to 2011, after the Fukushima incident, another study looked at workers there. The ones who got IV vitamin C saw their cancer risk markers go down. But, and this is a big but
Both of these were small studies. They're like promising hints, not the final answer. We definitely need bigger studies to know for sure.
All right, and this leads us to what is hands down the most important part of our chat today. How do you use this information? The key word here is safely. The whole point of this is to arm you with info for a good talk with your doctor, not to have you go out and start self-prescribing supplements.
And we have to kick this section off with this quote because it's so important. This is a huge warning. It says that cancer patients should never just start taking things like vitamin C on their own, thinking it'll help with radiotherapy side effects. It's a completely different situation, and you absolutely need to be guided by our medical team.
Okay, so based on the research so far, the source lays out a potential plan to talk about with your doctor before a scan. It's basically a cocktail of antioxidants that you take for 3 days, the day before, the day of, and the day after. But let me say it again, louder for the people in the back. This is a discussion point for you and your doctor. It is not a prescription. Your doctor knows your whole health picture and can tell you if this is a safe idea for you.
And it's also super important to know which scans we're even talking about here. This idea only applies to scans that use what's called ionizing radiation. So think PET scans, CT scans, bone scans, that kind of thing. It has absolutely nothing to do with MRIs or ultrasounds. Those use totally different technology, so this whole conversation doesn't even apply to them.
And here we are. This is the single most important thing you need to hear today. Are you ready? Never, ever take a high-dose antioxidant mix like this before you get radiation therapy or chemotherapy for cancer. Why not? Well, those treatments work by creating a massive storm of free radicals on purpose to kill the cancer cells. If you load up on antioxidants, you might accidentally end up protecting the very cancer cells you're trying to destroy. You could actually make your treatment less effective. This is a huge, non-negotiable, critical warning.
So what's the bottom line? Well, as these amazing medical scans get better and more common, figuring out how to protect our healthy cells is going to be more and more important. And yeah, we're still waiting on those big, definitive studies. But in the meantime, here's a thought to leave you with. Could having a smart, informed chat with your doctor about antioxidants be a new, helpful step in getting ready for your next scan? It's definitely some food for thought.